Welcome to Business Brief for today, July the 29th, 2026. It's a Wednesday, and to my businessmen and women, the engine room of any economy, I hope you're navigating business pretty much easy. Another reminder, put system in place so that the business can run as an entity on its own. You are different, the business is different. So when you're not available to run the business, it should be able to run itself with the system you're going to put in place starting right this moment. That being said, let's talk business. Nigeria's organized private sector is raising concerns over a new United States trade policy that imposes a 12.5% tariff on selected Nigerian exports. Now, while industry leaders say the overall impact of the economy may be limited, they warn that some exporters could still face increased costs and reduce competitiveness in the U.S. markets. The new tariff, which was earlier announced by the United States on July 23rd of this year, is part of a broader trade measure targeting countries that have not fully prohibited the importation of goods produced with forced labor. Now, the policy affects imports from 60 economies, including that of Nigeria. However, countries such as India, Indonesia, Malaysia, Mexico, and the United Kingdom will pay a lower 10% tariff after implementing or committing to implement stronger measures against forced labor-related imports. Now, Nigeria organized private sector says, although key raw materials remain exempt from the tariff, some exporters of affected products are likely to feel the impact. Business leaders are therefore urging the federal government to engage the U.S. authorities for a possible review of the tariff while addressing domestic regulatory gaps that could improve Nigeria's compliance with international trade standards. Now, despite the concerns, some industry experts believe Nigeria's overall exposure remains relatively limited because the country's exports to the United States are still, dominated by products that are exempt from the new tariff. Let's listen to the CEO of CPPE, Muda Yusuf, shortly.
But it's not something that is so critical, if I may put it that way, given the fact that almost 80% or 85% of what we export to the United States are exempted, from this tariff, because President Trump is very sensitive to the impact of his trade policy on energy prices, on things like fertilizer, gas, and so on. So anything that has to do with all those sectors, he doesn't touch it, even as desperate as he is on these tariff issues. So our exposure is very minimal. But, of course, the interest of some small exporters that may be affected, of course, we can have some discussion.
Analysts say that while the immediate economic impact may be modest, proactive reforms will be critical to protecting Nigerian exporters and expanding access to key international markets, improve regulatory compliance, and diversify its exports base to remain competitive in the global markets. Now, many Nigerian manufacturers say business is becoming harder to sustain as the cost of producing goods continue to rise. Industry experts warn that unless these costs come down, factories will continue to struggle, affecting jobs, production, and consumer prices going up. Now, the latest Purchasing Managers Index, or PMI as you call it, shows that manufacturing activity improved slightly in June, rising to 50.1 from 49.6 in May. Although this suggests a small improvement, experts say many factories are still producing less, receiving fewer customer orders, and operating below capacity. Now, if we take a look at this closely, business experts say that the biggest challenge is the high cost of doing business. Manufacturers are paying more for electricity, diesel, and gas to power the factories. They are also facing high interest rates when they borrow money from banks, while many Nigerians have less money to spend because of the rise of cost of living. Now, the Chief Executive Officer of the Center for Promotion of Private Enterprise, Mr. Muda Yusuf, again, says rising energy costs have become one of the biggest burdens for manufacturers, making it more expensive to produce everyday goods. Analysts say that if these challenges continue, factories may reduce production, delay expansion plans, or even cut jobs. They add that bringing down production costs and making loans more affordable will be key to helping the manufacturing sector recover. For ordinary Nigerians now, a stronger manufacturing sector could mean more locally made products, more jobs, and over time, more stable prices for everyday goods. And still talking business in Nigeria, Nigeria could lose its share of the African sugar market if the high cost of producing goods locally is not urgently addressed, raising concerns for businesses, jobs, and consumers now. The warning comes from the Executive Secretary of the National Sugar Development Council, Kama Birkin, at the 17th National Council on Industry, Trade and Investment in Enugu. Let's take a listen to that.
To revive it, and this is the time to make it happen. This is the time to make Nigerian industry actually compete. My assignment can be summarized in 3 words, which is to cut the cost, to raise the output, and to win the market. Not on new machines, not on salaries, on diesel and gas. Every factory in Nigeria is running 2 businesses, the factory and the private power station.
And that's back in talking about manufacturers in Nigeria continue to battle high electricity costs, expensive loans, and rising transportation expenses, making locally produced goods less competitive than those from many other African countries. He warned that without urgent reforms to reduce production costs and improve the business environment, Nigerian industries risk losing both domestic and regional markets under the African Continental Free Trade Area. Now, for Nigerians, the impact could be felt beyond the sugar industry. Higher production costs often translate to higher prices for consumers, reduced competitiveness for local businesses, and fewer employment opportunities in manufacturing. However, if production costs are brought down and local industries are better supported, Nigeria could retain its market share, create more jobs, strengthen local manufacturing, and make locally produced goods even more affordable. And that's where we leave Business Brief for today. Many thanks for staying tuned.